Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. And now, here's your host, Randy Harris.
Welcome to WFPC Podcasting. This is a weekly look at news, information, and the people in and around Pike County. The Pike County Emergency Medical Services, known as the acronym EMS, we don't pay much attention to them until we need them, and then we need them now. They are some of the unsung heroes, our first responders. Today we're talking with Pike County EMS Director Chris Young. So tell me a little bit about that history. You've been there, 10 years?
I have been the director since 2011.
Oh my, that's 14 years.
Yes.
Amazing. Goes fast, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I started my EMS career in 1993 as a basic EMT, and I was here part-time.
And that was at Campbelltown?
Yes.
But you have always been involved in this. It's, we've said a couple of times, you have a servant's heart. You've always been involved in this since you were a kid in one form or another. A lot of it, Jefferson Township Fire Department.
Correct.
Just walk us through that. And your most people know your mom and dad, Pep and Roger Young. They've always been involved in things. You've always been involved. Take us back. How did you get started wanting to help people?
That's all I've ever known. My dad actually started with the fire department in 1977. Were you
even born at that point?
I was 2 years old.
Okay.
He's coming up on his 50th year in the volunteer fire service.
Wow.
So from everything that I can always remember, that's what you did. There was no, if you were at a birthday party or a Christmas gathering or Thanksgiving and there was an alarm, you left. It's just, that's the way it works.
You respond.
Yes. So I've never known any different. When I went to school, I kind of thought about veering off the path and doing something different, but it always came back to here. So I took a job as a EMT in Du Bois County. I worked there 16 years on the ambulance. And then in 2011, I got the opportunity to come here as the director. And I've been here ever since.
We were getting ready to start talking about the history of an EMS. Acronyms are so big today. When I was starting out in radio, I was always taught, don't use the acronym on first reference, but it's pretty standard here. It's Pike County Emergency Medical Services.
Correct.
You're the first responders.
We are.
You are on the front line. It's grown in the 14 years you've been here. It's one of those rare county departments. It's pretty close to being self-sufficient. We'll get into all that in a little bit, but it didn't start out when you were a baby chasing around with your dad in 1977. We didn't even have a real legitimate EMS, did we? What was it back then?
Well, my understanding is in 1977, that's when Pike County EMS started. Prior to that, it was you got a hearse from the funeral home and you were put in the back and they drove you to the hospital and hoped that you were still alive when they got there.
Harris's and Curtis,
yes. I'm not sure. I know 1977 is when it started. The history past that's a little fuzzy. I do know, you talk about servants' blood. My aunt, Lydia Winland, her husband, Pete, was the director at one point. I do know that in the 80s. The ambulance barn that was at Campbelltown was built in the 80s, which they were there until we moved out in 2012. And I take that back. They weren't always there. There was some At one point, the service was divided and there were staff in Petersburg and Winslow. And then at some point, and I don't exactly know when, they downsized. And I think they went from 16 employees to 8. And then that's when they moved into the building at Campbelltown. And again, that was all prior to me in 1993.
Who was in there right before you?
Matt Wells.
And who was before Matt? Was that
Barbara Wilson.
all right? And before Barbara was
Before Barbara was Janet.
Janet was there when Janet Hunt was there when I moved here, and she did it for years until her untimely passing.
Yeah, and I'll never forget Janet. I mean, she was there when I started, and I still walk in the courthouse and
look in her office,
or you can hear her talking, or you can hear that laugh.
Right.
You know, that laugh was Janet Hunt.
Infectious.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, that's.
Since you first started hanging around in 1993 as a part-timer, walk us through the last 32 years that you've been there. How many people did you have in 1993?
In 1993, they had 8 full-time. I was just a part-time EMT, did more of the volunteer at Otwell. The truck was volunteer there until within the last 3 years, I think is when it hasn't been. It's been full-time since then. But like I said, mine was more volunteer runs than I might work a shift if they needed somebody. Especially working at DuBois County, I didn't have a lot of time to work down here. So, but I did make the volunteer runs and that sort of thing.
Just helping out.
Right, helping the community. That servant's heart.
You're right. And then today, you've got a pretty fine-tuned, smooth-running organization. So I mentioned your first responders, and in the intro I mentioned we don't even think about you until we need you, and at that point we need you now.
Right.
What all do you do? You never know what you never know what the next day or even the next hour holds for you. How many employees do you have at this point?
Currently, right now, I have 22 full-time, and we have 10 to 12 part-time.
And that's split between the north half of the county and the south half of the county.
That's split between 3 stations.
And
so we have the station in Petersburg, and we have the station at Arthur, and we have the station at Otwell.
right.
And those stations are staffed 24/7, 365.
Wow. So you've got the east side covered, south and north.
Correct. Yeah. And that's covering a total of 343 square miles, I believe.
Say that again?
Those 3 trucks cover 343 square miles in the county.
And, I've said this on here a couple of times, but Pike County, we're so rural, but our geographic footprint is bigger than that of New York City.
Yes.
Wow. We've only got 12,500 people, and largely because so much of it has been coal mined over the last 120 years. But that's a lot of. You're going from Stendal to Union to Hazleton to Spurgeon.
Yeah.
That's a lot of windshield time.
It is.
What is a normal day like for EMS?
You never know what it's going to be. It can be nothing all day, and within 10 to 15 minutes, every truck that's in service is out on our call. Or it can be a day where you may not do anything. But again, as you said, we never know what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, or, when people call, we respond.
you're prepared, and you're always building, growing, preparing. Tell us about your staff. You've got some experience there.
I have a great staff. They're all willing to work. They're all willing to pick up extra. If somebody's going to be out, they're willing to help cover that. It's not uncommon, and we talk about being busy. There are times when all three of the trucks that we have staffed are out on calls. And then we have two other trucks besides that. So at that point, myself or my assistant director are on call. So if there's a fourth run that comes out, one of us will take it. Or, I have other people who live in the county that are paramedics, have some that live just right outside of the county. They're all willing to step up and take a run if another one comes in.
Just by sheer experience, you've got those resources.
We do.
You know who to call and what they're capable of.
Right. And that's a big benefit for our county because, other counties, they don't have that. A lot of them. Once all of their trucks are out, they'll call another county for mutual aid, which can be a lengthy time. We've had to do that in the past because we were busy or didn't have the coverage, but majority of the time we have coverage for those trucks or can have coverage if we need them.
And many times you, different than most other counties, you kind of know where you're going and who you're helping.
A lot of the times, yes.
What has changed in these 32 years that makes your job easier than it was when you started as a part-timer in 1993?
I think just the technology. Everything's progressed. You look at when I started in 1993, we were a basic service here. So we had the ability to bandage, maybe do CPR if we needed to, splint a fracture, but it's not what we do today. Today we have the ability to do anything in the back of that ambulance that they can do in the emergency room at a hospital. We've got a medical director, Dr. Jeremy Curtis out of Deaconess, and he's very proactive. And he's like, I know you're a rural county. I want you guys to be good at what you do. I want you to have the skill set. I want you to have the availability to do something if you need to do it. So, we're always looking at different things, what we have options for. Would it work good in our service? Would it not? And unfortunately, some of that falls back to cost versus how many times we would use it. And we kind of look at all that. But, we're able to perform CPR in the field. We're able to defibrillate in the field. We can intubate. We can administer. I'm thinking we're probably up to 35 to 40 different drugs that we can administer in the field if needed for, whatever's going on with that patient. And again, you think about the rural county, we're delivering ER-style treatment 30 to 45 minutes before somebody would get it
at the ER.
And it's made a difference in a lot of people. We talk about that some at work. You could count, there's a handful of people that are here today because of what Pike County EMS has done and is able to do that probably wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for the people we have working for us and the skills that we're able to perform.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting. Let's take a quick 60 seconds to hear from our episode sponsors.
WFPC welcomes a new sponsor, Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, located right here in Pike County on State Road 64, just west of the Arthur Junction, near the new Pike County EMS building. Besides excavating and dirt work, Hathaway Excavating adds a rock yard to their bundle of services, along with all kinds of dirt work, septic cleaning, septic installs, and always local friendly service. Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, 812-582-2646. Recently, the real estate market has been unpredictable, but at Harris Real Estate, we still have clients looking for homes and properties. Let us help you sell your home or property and or find your next one. We're local. We know the business. We know the community. Harris Real Estate has listed and sold hundreds of properties right here in Pike County. Harris Real Estate, 812-380-1065. And when you wash your vehicle on a regular basis, there are many advantages. You're easier to see, you preserve the life of your vehicle, you help maintain its value, protect its paint, prevent corrosion, and it just looks better. It only takes 6 quarters or your credit card to get it started. Stop by Petersburg Car Wash today, 401 South 9th Street, Petersburg. People have changed quite a bit since you've been watching this. You've got some new equipment. I know from being on the county council, your people have had a lot of injuries, shoulders, backs, and it's from lifting. You got some new equipment to help with that. Tell us about that.
We did. And you're right. You know, a lot of what we do is lifting and moving. And I hate to say it, but I'll say it. Unfortunately, nobody's getting any smaller.
Yeah, people are bigger.
People are bigger. And we've had to adjust to that. But we were able, with the council's help and the commissioner's help, to purchase new cots that are self-loading. So, you know, it gives us the ability to get that cot to the person and move the cot up and down, where before it was either all the way up or on the floor. And if it was on the floor, then we had to physically pick it up to get it back on its wheels. Where now we can adjust that height, move that patient to it, and once we get that patient on the cot, we get it to the truck. The mechanism in the truck does all of the loading and the picking up. We don't have to pick it up anymore.
So I used to always think a 200-pound person, that's a pretty big person, and traditionally it was. You're dealing with twice that now, aren't you?
Yeah, or more. You know, it's not uncommon for us to get more than that.
More than 400 pounds?
Yes.
And that suggests that our health is just out of whack.
More than likely. You know, there's some things that can't be avoided.
Right. There are some people that have an issue, but most of it is we're pretty unhealthy.
We are as a society. It's not just here. You know, it's nationwide.
I meant that.
And unfortunately, that's part of our job. We have to adapt to the changes in the communities, the changes in our service or the EMS system as a whole. And we've had to adapt, and, you know, I think we've done that. And it, you know, even not just moving the bigger patients, it's been a morale boost to the staff
to get those,
because they know they're not worried about, am I going to get hurt lifting this patient, or how am I going to move this patient? You know, they've got the ability to do that a lot easier right now.
I was visiting someone at Brickyard, and you had just gotten those, and I think Steve came in, and he said, "How do you like this?" Mm-hmm. I said, "It's impressive."
Yeah.
But that's wow. Sure helps you, and if it helps that morale and does the job better and more efficiently.
Right. You know, and that's what we're all about, getting that efficiency to the patient, but yet also protecting our employees.
Right.
Because there are not a lot of us out there, and that number seems to dwindle all the time. I know the number of certified people continues to drop. So if we can protect the ones we've got and keep them happy, hopefully we can keep them here. Because I strive to get the best people that we can. You
do quite a job at that. And I mentioned this. We've had the two new principals have been in here recently, and I asked them, where are you finding good people to replace those baby boomers that are ready to retire?
Right.
Because our numbers of actual people working in society compared to non-working has shrunk over the years.
Yeah.
And what is your recruitment? Just again, you being resourceful?
It is, and again, it's going back to keeping your people happy. A lot of my people may work other places also part-time. I've got some that teach. A lot of it in this business is word of mouth. So, if we can keep a positive attitude here and a positive environment, that really helps. Some of the places that teach send us students because they have to do so much ride time before they're eligible to test. So some of them come here, and they can see the environment, and then they can decide for themselves if they want to be part of this or not.
That in itself is networking, isn't it?
It is. And, you'll hear from them all the time, well, I like coming here. Not that I don't like some of the other places, but this place makes me feel more like home. Because we try to, involve the students as much as we can. We have students that come from Pelham training all the time. And
what is Pelham training?
It's a facility that they teach EMT classes. They teach paramedic classes.
Where are they?
They're out of Bloomington.
Okay.
Which one of my employees teaches for them. Mm. So that's kind of how we got in with them. But, the students, they're coming from all the way across different places throughout the United States. It's not uncommon for us to have somebody from Washington State or the East Coast because they're here and doing their training. And, what we hear is, you guys involve us. You make us feel like we're part of this group. Well, you are part of this group for 24 hours when you're here. So, but that networking and that positive going out, like, hey, this is a place to work or this is a place to do your training. That's what we want.
I've always said Pike County is a very welcoming community. Mm-hmm. And that once you accept the people of Pike County for being who we are, they accept you.
Right.
I came from Evansville. Didn't know what I was coming into, but people quickly made it feel like home to me. Mm-hmm. We mentioned that you're almost self-supporting. You don't do just emergency runs either, do you?
We don't. Yeah, we do more.
Tell us what all you're doing and how that helps compensate and keep your department.
Well, I think it was back around, when everybody uses COVID to justify your timeline, but I think it was right at the beginning of COVID, we started doing non-emergent transports also, which that may be moving a patient from a hospital to another hospital or a hospital to a nursing home, those types of things, doctor's appointments. It just got to the point that we were sufficient, but we were on the downhill slide of not being able to support ourselves. And I'm just like my staff. I worked in DuBois County for 16 years. We did non-emergent transports up there. I didn't like them. But unfortunately, it's a necessity in the business, especially if you're going to stay afloat. Because if you think of where we're at here, we have, on average, probably close to 900 to 1,000 911 calls a year.
Let's let that soak in. You'll have 900 to 1,000 911 calls. That's over 2.5 a day.
Right. And then I believe last year we were up around 2,600 runs for the entire year. So the remainder is the non-emergent.
And those are paying customers.
Those are paying customers. I brought that to you guys on the council, and I know it was a big change. It took some convincing on my part for a few of you.
Wonder who that would be.
But I think now that we've seen the positive of it, I think you guys are really glad that you agreed with me, and even the commissioners. Because like you said, we are pretty well self-sufficient with what we do with collections on our ambulance transports and
Paperwork
and the safety tax that's in place. Between those two, we have been able to cover our budget the last few years with a little bit of surplus.
So what are you? Your rolling stock. You're always trying to be proactive, look ahead. I drive around the county a lot, going from one house, one property to another. You guys are on the road a lot.
We are.
You put a lot of miles on those trucks.
We do, yes.
And you've been trying to be proactive in preparing for when, after a while, those vehicles just wear out. I've got an old GMC sitting down at the car wash. It's $280,000 or 208,000 miles. It's about through the book.
Mm-hmm.
They wear out. You're trying to be proactive. How is your rolling stock at this point?
We're starting to get some mileage on our fleet. But again, we've talked about that at commissioners and council meetings, and it's unfortunate where we're at now. But again, we'll go back to ever since COVID, which is where we're driving from. The ability for us to get a truck is a lengthy amount of time.
2 years.
2 to 2.5 years. Yeah. And that's what we've discussed in our meetings. How do we plan ahead to be prepared so that when we need a truck, we have that ability to get it and not have to wait 2.5 years.
When that truck goes down.
And we talk about mileage. My bigger concern is if we're involved in an accident and that truck is totaled, then we're without that truck for however long it takes to do something different. And again, like I said, those are not quick moves, unfortunately. And again, COVID has driven that. The ambulance manufacturers had layoffs. They had people quit. They have backlogs of orders that they're trying to fill. And again, this is nationwide. It's not anything that we've done. At one point, it was the chassis manufacturers, Ford, GMC, Dodge. They were all not making chassis for ambulances for a certain time. So again, that put everybody behind again. So, and we're trying to catch up, but we all know how it is trying to catch up. It's hard to do.
Yeah. How do you see this department, your industry, growing over the next 10 to 15 years? What are the changes coming at you that you're hearing through the industry that you're preparing for? What's happening on the West Coast, East Coast, big cities that's eventually going to hit us?
Well, I think it's the biggest thing is the staffing, and trying to keep people. This is a very trying job.
What is the average? If you've been doing this since essentially high school, most people aren't in there 32 years.
No.
What's the average tenure for an EMT?
Most of them anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
Really? And then they move on to something that's less physical, less stressful.
And more money.
Okay.
Yep. A lot of them will go into nursing, or they'll go back to school for physician's assistant. And some of them decide, I'm getting out of the medical field altogether and just do something completely different. This job, like I said, we never know what you're doing from 1 minute to the next. You never know what you're going to see from 1 minute to the next.
I bet your eyes have been opened.
They have, in more ways than one. But those are stories for another day. Right. So, I think our biggest thing going forward is going to be staffing. Because like I said, it's a nationwide issue. And we've talked about it at the state level in some of the meetings that I've been in, and nobody's really sure how to fix it. And I'm not really sure what the answer is. But again, we can't, especially in a community like ours, we can't go without emergency services.
It's police, fire, as well as
correct
EMTs. Can you take this opportunity to recruit kids who have that servant's heart? What's in it for them to come work for Pike County EMS?
Well, I would encourage them, at the high school level, they are able to, especially through Pike Central, there's co-op classes. So there's a fire science class at Pike Central.
That's great.
There's also an EMT class that they're able to take, I believe, as a senior. And they can come out of that class with an EMT certification. So, you have somebody that wants to be an EMT, they could do that in high school. As soon as they graduate, they would be eligible for employment at any service because they'll hold that state certification that they need to work.
And if it's not a 50-year career for them, the 10 years that they're going to put in, wow, that's great knowledge. It is. It's great for them to understand. And, once you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you appreciate them more.
Right. And, it builds character for that person. It gets them communication skills. It gets them real life world skills, because that's what we tell our people, and we talk about it all the time. When we're working, we're dealing with someone's life. We could change it for the good. We can change it for the worse. But always think about, how would you want to be treated, or how would you want your parents or grandparents to be treated? And that's how we want you to be in the back of that ambulance with those individuals or with those family members.
What else do we need to talk about?
One thing we can talk about is our new building at Arthur.
Tell us about Arthur. I call it north, but it's really east. But you've got Jefferson Township, you got Petersburg. Now you're down at Arthur, which helps you in the southern part. What is that service territory?
So its main area would be anything in Patoka Township,
Monroe,
Lockhart.
Logan. Yeah. Do you go as far as Logan?
They can. So our ambulances move really weird. If you're the initial truck, then that's your response area. But if that truck's gone, then we pull from another station. So it may take a little bit longer. That's going to change your response areas. But like we mentioned earlier, in 2012, we were in the building at Campbelltown, and we moved out of that building. We were in the basement of the jail for almost 2 years, until the building in Petersburg was approved and built and finished. That building was finished in 2015. And at that time, I had talked to the commissioners and you guys as the council, and we looked at our response times. And when we were in that building at Campbelltown, for us to go from there to Stendal or to Union, we were pushing around 18, 19 minutes for the first truck to get there.
A lot can happen in 20 minutes.
Yes. Yep.
And it takes a few minutes to get to the phone to call 911.
Correct. Yep. So we looked at all that, and then we started looking at, well, what if we split the service and move 2 stations, one in the north and one in the south? So we looked at that, discussed it, and we come down to looking at, it dropped our response time from 19 minutes to right at 9 minutes by splitting the stations. So of course, it's all about money, but it's all about what the citizens deserve too. So after discussions, we decided that we would split. So we had that station in Petersburg. And then at that time, I believe initially we were in the fire station at Patoka for a while. We didn't have a station down there. And then we moved in with Trinity Ambulance Service in the south end of the county for a while. At Arthur. And then we moved back to the fire station. And then because of COVID, we were able to build a building in Arthur that's our own, which we just completed that, and we actually moved in July, which again is a morale boost for staff. And nothing against where we were at in the south with Trinity or Patoka. They were both great to us, and they give us a place to stay. But I always tell everybody it's like living in your in-laws' basement. At some point, you got to move out. You got to do your own thing. So with COVID money, we were able to do that. And, like I said, it's been a great morale boost, and, our staff is great about taking care of their buildings. They want to be in good places. They want to have good places to go. They want to have a good place to come back to so that they can debrief and stress relief after an eventful run. All that's part of what we do, and that's part of what they need. So,
what can the community do to help you?
Really, not a lot more than what they do now. Be supportive. We want to do the best for you that we can do, and we hear that all the time. We appreciate what you do. I think that goes farther than anything. It's just a thanks. You see EMS or fire or law enforcement out and say, hey, thanks for what you do. Thanks for helping us.
Here a month or 2 ago, whenever school started, you had that first responders night. How did that go with you?
It went great.
At Pike Central.
I was actually not able to attend. I had prior obligations. We had to move it from the day that was initially scheduled to later in the week due to weather. But it was well attended. I think the staff had as much fun as the kids that came and got to be involved. And anytime we can interact with the children, and it's always a stress reliever. A kid's not going to hold back. They'll shoot from the cuff, and they're going to say what they think.
Tell it to you straight.
That's right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was well attended.
And the more they understand about what you do, what the fire department does, what the police department does, the better.
It is. Not only for them in the event that they need us. They've already been interacting with us. They know who we are. Hopefully it relieves some of their stress.
Anxiety of
but
flashing
like
lights.
We talked about earlier, at some point they're going to grow up. At some point maybe that'll be a career for them. We talk about earlier the serving heart. Well, maybe we can put that seed into them, and maybe they're going to be a good employee for us later on.
Mm-hmm. A good servant for the community.
Right.
Where do you see your department in 5 years? Are you pretty well set for now, or do you? have needs, wants that are coming up?
We always have needs. Again, it's if we sit still too long, we get behind, and we don't want to be behind. We don't want to overdo, but we want what's best for the community. I think we're in a really good spot where we're at, station wise. We've got two stations that are county owned, and then the fire station at Otwell. Those are really good spots, and we're really set there. I think our biggest need and want going forward is going to be, keeping those ambulances up to date and moving in and out. There's going to be some defibrillators that we're going to need at some point in the next 5 years, some CPR machines and that type of thing. But again, it's things that we have to do to continue to progress forward and not slide backwards.
Most of your hospital runs, where are those two? Are they Memorial, Davis County, Gibson, Evansville?
We do for all of those. We may go pick someone up at Gateway and take them to Indianapolis.
Really?
Which sounds unbelievable or unreal. But again, it's a business. And those are paying customers. So, any of that kind of stuff that we can do to help offset our budget. And I think we talked about this a little bit at the council meeting. We were able to add that third crew because up until January of 23, we only had 2 full-time crews. But by doing a lot of this non-emergence transports, we've been able to add that third crew 24/7 with virtually no expense to the county. So it's really a benefit because you think they're not gone 24 hours a day. So that's another crew or another ambulance that can respond to an emergency in the county that the taxpayers are really not paying for because of those non-emergent transports.
Puts a lot of miles on your vehicles, though, doesn't it?
It does. It's a double-edged sword.
Puts more wear and tear on your people.
It does. And we try to watch who's going, when they're going. And there are days that we're very, very busy, and there's, we've got a call, can you do this transport? And it's just like, no, we can't. We've maxed out what we can do for the day. Our crews are done, and we're not going to accept that one. But for the most part, I think we do really well.
What number do they call for that? Just a basic landline?
It's 812-766-9730.
Is that a cell phone?
It's a cell phone number, and it's covered by somebody 24/7.
Wow.
So it's either myself or my assistant director, Doug Mounts. One of the two of us are always on call. So.
You guys don't have much time off, do you?
No.
I even see you out mowing sometimes.
Yeah. Those are the de-stress times when you're able to get out and not be called or not be bothered, not be interrupted, and get some time just to sit and not do anything. So,
which is worse, this or going to the council? Being grilled by the council, or
you're putting me on the spot.
That's just part of what you have to do, though. You have to explain, and it's a checks and balance. And
it is, and I could say probably when I started, it was probably county government. And I'm not saying that this is worse. People are like, "Oh, you have to go to those meetings." Like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
You're used to it.
I'm used to it.
Butterflies are gone.
Yeah, I speak, and you state to this. I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, very, very direct, and
it may not be what you want to hear, but
I think sometimes we're kind of direct with you too. But it's communication, and it's face to face, eye to eye.
Right.
Let's know where each other's coming from.
And I hope you and all of the other commissioners and council know the point we're at now, I'm not going to do something that's going to jeopardize where we're at. Because I want to keep going forward from where we are. Because I think with your guys' help, we've created a great service for the citizens of the county. Again, like I said, I could name two handfuls of people that wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for what's been approved and been able to been done.
And when it's your loved one on the line, that's when you want them.
Right.
Chris, we appreciate what you do, what your employees do. You've got a good assistant, and that's Doug Mounts.
Yes.
You've got an outstanding crew, and they all seem to be people with servants' hearts that want to help out Pike County.
Correct.
We appreciate what you do and putting yourself on the line every day.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us for this program of WFPC Podcasting. The program is brought to you by Hathaway Excavating and Rockyard, Harris Real Estate, and Petersburg Car Wash. Please like the podcast and share with your friends so more people can hear about WFPC. You may find WFPC Podcasting on our website, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite media. Join us next Friday for another episode of WFPC Podcasting, exploring the people, information, and news right here in Pike County. See you next week.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. Tune in next week for the next episode of WFPC Podcasting.